me not knowing what to do after high school, working in construction is something you don't have to go to college to make what people go to college aren't even making today. I got friends who've graduated college and still aren't making more than me in construction, and I've only been working construction for 5 years.
So, I want to thank you for joining us today. Want to especially thank Raimore Construction, and in particular you, Moreland, for taking the time out of your busy day to help support this Careers in Construction Month with PPS high school students. Wanted to start out asking a couple questions about Raimore Construction specifically. What's the journey? What's the history been like? From the beginning of the formation of this company, and let's just tell the youth like how you guys got started in this construction industry.
Oh man, it's a good question. It's a interesting story. Jeff Moreland Sr., which is my overbearing uncle, which is also the owner of the company. He started with one truck. He was a businessman, very entrepreneur, finance guy, and just saw the opportunity to help small contractors in the finance piece. And then from that, he got pretty much like an urge to say, okay, man, I think I can do this. I can impact the community a little bit differently than what I'm doing on the other side of the coin. So he had the opportunity. He started doing like small, like private, flips and stuff like that.
With that, can you tell the students, when they hear catalytic project, biggest singly awarded contract to a, BIPOC black owned business in our community, can you speak to, one, a little bit about the project, what it is, but how big the project is, I think is important for people to understand.
$50+ million project. That it's a bigger number than that when it comes to our portion of the project. Is the general contractor is a $60+ million, which is a big number. This is something you have to accomplish in about 2 years, 2.5 years or so. So that's a lot of work. That's almost $30 million a year that we need to accomplish in these next 2 years to build this project. Just so y'all can put it into perspective. And the basis of the project is TriMet is coming out with a whole new bus system off of Division. Division is one of your unsafest corridors out there. And so what they did is we're gonna upgrade the bus system, we're gonna upgrade traffic signal lights, we're gonna make it a safer transition for people. It's gonna be a more efficient project for people, and so all we're doing is building platforms for these new buses that talk to each other and they talk to the signals just to make things more efficient. So we're going all the way from Gresham Transit Center all the way to 11th and Division.
Wow.
So this
about 13 miles.
Yeah,
you would say?
Yes, exactly. So it's a major project.
Contractor, is there a couple of subs that you could name that you guys have been able to bring on and help them build capacity and continue kind of that community relationship of bringing in contractors to, support this project, but also to build their own, brand of business to, be the next potential GC out there?
I could start with, we had, for a trucking standpoint, Tyrone Bailey and Bailey's Construction is somebody that's been with us in this journey for a while, and it's not just trucking for him. It's just about having him get the opportunity to really get some knowledge from a civil standpoint, so he can branch his business and try to capture another piece of scope, so he can grow as well. So you have Bailey's. We have Colt Flagging, which is one of the bigger minority-owned companies for flagging in the state of Oregon, and again, is to be able to help them. They were already established, but they was on the same journey that we have been in. So it's always good to say, hey, let's go into this situation together, right? And continue to grow together. And if there's opportunities to branch into other things, they have the opportunity because they're sitting in the seat to be like, hey, we can accomplish this, we can do this.
You know, I know a lot of this project touches the Jade District, and I think it's very rewarding and shows a lot of the bridge building that Raimore does by bringing in an Asian-owned, woman-owned company to really help make sure that that community is also being heard and served and a part of this project too. So I definitely want to applaud Raimore for what they're doing and, you know, being the bridge builder, if you will, and helping, you know, collaborate with a lot of, you know, different community groups.
Tweed 2 Consulting, and that's someone who's doing a lot of the outreach and getting the community together to help feeding us the positive information that we need to be able to make sure we're not locking anyone out of this industry as well.
I want to personalize it a little bit, Webb, and I want to, you know, for the kids tuning in today, I want to zero in on you because you've got an interesting story on how you got into construction, which wasn't the traditional route of how many get in.
Oh man, where do I start, man? I probably should write a book. Yeah, like you said, it's not a traditional route. Construction was not my first option. Didn't even really think it was an option. So I'm just very similar to probably the kids that are listening. Is that, you know, I was an athlete. I played basketball and I did track. Went on to college and did the same thing. Got my degree in psychology. I went to Chico State, transferring to Warner Pacific, which is how crazy that story is. That I went to Warner Pac 10 years ago, and then I'm doing a project. I start my project right by Warner Pac in a lead role on the biggest project in Oregon that a black-owned company has got. I put the same energy into trying to help build this company to where it's at. And I'm only 10 or 11 years in. He was already a decade in.
Yeah.
But he was in up and down, seems like, in these ways. And so if we can get some more pillars and staples within this company, I thought, man, this could be
a big company.
We don't know, you know what I'm saying? It's unlimited. The sky's the limit. And I know I had to struggle for a while of being torn. But, you know, I would say Jeff Sr. said this to me that still sticks to me today. And he told me I was more than basketball, right? And it was one thing I just never really heard because that was the only thing that motivated me and I thought that was my purpose. And that was so impactful to me, and I still hear those words today, which makes me a little bit emotional because he was right.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it, and it was a back and forth. I didn't see it as much, but then as I really reiterate those words in my head, I was able to really focus and really say, I am more than basketball. I am more than these things that the world has said I'm supposed to be, right? I can be something bigger than this, which we don't hear, especially as men of color in these urban areas that we grow up in. You know, it's your only way out is what, sports or music, you know, working at the barbershop or something like that. And there's no knock to those things, but that was our only way out. We felt like that, and he was doing something so much bigger that I just couldn't see. And so, a long story long, that was my commitment. And then 10 years ago, that's where I committed completely to Raimore to be in the position I am now.
Right, because that'd be similar to my background in architecture and trying to hoop, and certainly didn't hoop as far as you, but I thought I was doing that ticket, and that ticket didn't work out, so I jumped into something, you know, called architecture, and I think it's an important, you know, segue into kind of the next segment, which is really about like how people traditionally get into the industry, which typically has been coined the FBI. You know, it's usually through your father, brother, or in-laws. And in your case, it was a family member. But there's so many kids out there that you know don't have family members in these, you know, untraditional industries that tend to be either white male dominated or just more white in particular industries. So I guess, you know, I want to really stress the fact to, you know, kind of really making sure kids know what's expected in the workforce. And this ain't no easy work, but can you describe like what the expectations are, and maybe name a couple of the titles, including your title at Raimore, that you see on the project management side, just to name a few things so kids are exposed to some of these titles, and then maybe just a couple on the field side. And if you know, maybe just range of pay, that would just be nice for kids to just even understand, like, wow, you know, these people are having living wage, even high wage jobs.
My title is superintendent slash project manager, which is a very rare title for somebody to be able to, because usually somebody's just superintendent, they understand the field, and your project managers understand the numbers, you know. Just my training and learnings over the last decade of doing it, I've been cross-trained to do both. So I see from the field perspective and the office perspective as well. And you have, so superintendent, project manager. You also have, work under me is from an office standpoint, is a field engineer, right? And traditionally, those are the people that went the college route, got some type of construction management degree, project engineering degree in some type of capacity. Those are the people that start in that field engineer role. It's kind of that entry role into engineering that you work your way up from the FE, field engineer, to a PE, project engineer, and to a PM, project manager. So it's usually those are the steps from an admin standpoint. And those the range of salary that person can have really depends on the industry as well too. But you can be starting up to 50 to 60,000 and topping out to 150,000. It depends on what you bring in, because you can be based off of performance, bonuses, depends on the project. So just in those titles right there, you know, those are good livable wages that I just listed, right? Those are good livable wages. And let's talk about the field, where people don't understand the field. So I have as a superintendent in the field, then you have a general foreman, you can have a foreman, you also have lead guys, operators, cement masons, laborers. You have all these different things. And so if you break down their salaries or their hourlies, it's on a public job. You'll have an operator who's making almost $40-something an hour.
Yeah.
Now, right? You have a laborer who's up to, I think, $32 an hour, and the operator is a guy who's operating machines. So on all the heavy machinery, those are the guys that, and there's higher risk, so you get a little bit more pay for that, right? Because you're bringing a little bit more. Any wrong move, somebody's life can be in danger, or anything. You dig a pipe out the ground the wrong way, could be a big issue. So operator is one of the higher scale people in the industry. You have electricians out there. Some of the higher, these are $40+ an hour individuals that this is what they make. And so if you do all the numbers, these guys could be making from 80, 70 to 100 and some $1,000 a year if they are working full time, right? A laborer, the same. The laborer's making $30-something an hour. A cement mason's probably making about $35 an hour. So if these guys are just working just 52, 40-hour weeks, and you know you're never really working a 40-hour week in construction, they're all ranging from 60 to 100+ thousand dollars a year. Depends on how the project goes. And it is literally, he is managing the work, and he has everybody under his wing, essentially. So he manages every aspect of that project, from your subcontractors to your own employees. So like I spoke about the operator, the operator is under the superintendent. Yeah. You know, like I talked about the cement masons, the people that's doing the concrete, they're all under the superintendent. So you have your superintendent is up here, and you have all these levels of people that's under them. So superintendent, usually you have a foreman or a general foreman that can be a liaison between the superintendent and the foreman, right? A general foreman is literally, he's the general foreman. He is managing the other foreman, right? And he's speaking right to the superintendent, right? Yeah. They're from a day-to-day standpoint. Traditionally, we don't do the GF role within Raimore. We just go superintendent. Field engineer plays like that NBA. They can play the field, and it can also be in the office as well. Yeah. And your superintendent usually just controls the foreman. It's with the foreman. So you might have three. I have three foremen. It's me, and right now I have three foremen that's under me with the field engineer. So I talk to everybody from top to bottom, but that foreman, or that myself, superintendent, and the foreman, they're talking and they're building these projects.
Say, because what I'm hearing, and I think kids will relate to, is it seems like a very dynamic team, operation that happens in construction, where a lot of communication and a lot of exchange between who you report to and what the work is expected. And the thing that I think will resonate for a lot of kids tuning in today, and given your background as an athlete and, playing hoop, I mean, we all understand that's a team dynamic in itself. And so can you help us kind of transfer what that skill set is, that hooping on the court? I think you mentioned that the superintendent is kind of the one who's telling people what to do. I kind of think of it as maybe like your point guard on the hoop court. And so can you kind of describe like some of those qualities that that you see that are transferable from athletics to like working in construction in the field? Because I think that's very key for those kids who maybe don't make it in sports, and seeing that their skill sets can actually be transferred.
Because I'm doing a lot of coaching and getting people in the right position. The point guard, like you said, was a great analogy, is that I'm bringing the ball up the court. Hey, you get over there. There's a guy, and you have to start finding out the strengths and weaknesses of your people, right? Because I don't want to put this guy in the corner and he plays like Dwight Howard, and I'm having him shoot threes. No, I want him by the basket, because I just want to be able to throw this ball up to you so you could dunk. So you start realizing the team, what people do.
The team effort is very key for any success in construction. You got to have it.
It's easy. You have to be intentional about trying to find the best out of and get the best out of your people, right? And so that's one thing we just take pride in. So the team aspect is very, very, very key. Finding your role is very, very key. Some people are natural at it. Some people have to work extra hard about it. But that's where somebody in my role is trying to help bring the best out of everybody, right? So yeah, team aspect is key to understand at a young age. Very key, because you're going to need to use it. It will translate in anything you do in life.
With one last question to conclude this interview, what would be, before we go on the demo walk to show kids what it looks like to be an operator and to actually perform and operate that equipment that you spoke to earlier, I guess what would be the top 3 things that you would say to that next generation of potential workforce coming in terms of soft skills and kind of work ethic and the expectations? Because I can't underscore it enough that just like practicing in sports, there's expectations of how much you're supposed to practice and how much you're supposed to hone in on that skill. So can you give us what would be your top 3 things that you would say to the next generation in the way of what to expect if you actually get or are interested in this industry?
You got to be self-motivated. I think that is key, to be self-motivated. If you're self-motivated, it's very easy to transition into anything, because you don't want to not know, right? So if you're self-motivated, that pushes you to not know. You're like, okay, I don't know this, but I'm motivated to know more, right? So being self-motivated, being teachable, right? We always say, as an athlete, you got to be a coachable person. You got to be coachable. So to be able to listen and hear, to understand that there is a process to it, is very key. And I would say work ethic, man. If someone was a coachable, teachable person, they had the will to learn, and they had a strong work ethic, I can do some amazing things with that.
Definitely a place to build a family, great benefits, great people, and you also get a chance to see how the city's built.
What you see is a track hole, a mini track hole. We use a machine like this. You see the operator, Darren Frazier, with who was in the machine. As you see, we came in and we had some pre-demo of the area. And what you see now is him coming to trying to make grade. As you see all these pieces of concrete, we're going to be taking all this concrete out, regrading this out, and repouring a whole new ADA ramp to get it up to scope. To get into the process of being an operator, it takes a lot of patience, and sometimes it takes a lot of skill set to be able to be developed. Darren is in 701, which is the operators union, a really strong union, a good union. They give you the tool that you need to be out here to be able to perform the work. So the apprenticeship is a very rigorous process where when you get in, they take pride in it. It's like going back to school. They do week on and week off time for the apprentices to come in and get educated and become and get placed in different type of processes so they can be able to perform in the field. As you see with Darren, and you see this is a team effort. It's a team effort. You got your machine right here, you got your operator inside the machine, you got your ground guys being the eyes and the ears on the ground. So they're talking, everyone's talking and communicating either with hands or with signals, but everybody is talking to make sure they can communicate. It takes, as you can see, you can count the bodies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got people watching pedestrians. You got flaggers out here. It's a whole process. It's not just one.
I want to thank PPS for this opportunity, so we will see you soon.